Greetings! You're watching SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. I am here with Kotobukijake,
Right?
of course, Brittany from Embria Arts, and
Hi.
Dave from Inside Movies Galore. Looks like we got a little bit of an echo going on. So let's see here. I'm going to fix people in here. Whoop, there it goes. In any case, we'll go ahead and get started with this particular series. I do apologize for the, well, we did make up for doing a number 19 with Detroit Metal City. But we had a tragedy in the family. We had to address that always first.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of a hobby than it is a actual making money venture. It'd be nice if it was a making money venture.
Wouldn't it though?
Yeah, but but today we're talking about honey and clover. There are few times in our lives where we truly define ourselves. Many times, psychologically, especially when you talk about TV series, we tend to lean on our teenage years, our high school years, as those being the main years that define who we are. But in reality, the years that define us more than anything are those first 5 years, really, into our 20s or in our late teens on top of that. Scientifically, personality does not fully develop until around age 25. So really, high school just gives you a base. But as you go into university, developing relationships, developing ideas, and looking at the possibilities in life ahead of you, you truly do define who you are going to be. And that is essentially the whole of Honey and Clover, told through a bunch of art school kids, so to speak. Well, to me anyway.
Youngsters.
Early 20s, late teens, going through life and discovering themselves and who they want to be. So we will start with, Dave, was this your first time seeing Honey and Clover?
This was my first time seeing Honey and Clover, and I honestly had to start it and restart it over, and then restart it over again. And finally, when I started it over the third time, it seemed like the characters started not annoying me, and I actually started enjoying them a little bit more.
And the third time you built the castle it stayed up.
Well, basically, but it's just it's honestly about an interesting period in the life of these art students who obviously when they first start, some are newbies, some are experienced, and oftentimes whenever you have people of this nature, sometimes you have relationships that get involved, and people start loving each other. Sometimes 3-on-1, but it was an interesting period of moments with these characters, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, it fascinated me at times, and at times it was somewhat, I don't know, archaic. But you kind of get to know each of the characters, likes and dislikes throughout the film or series, and it's interesting. So,
all right. So, Brittany, was this your first time watching Honey and Clover?
It was my 6th time watching this series. And I used to love this series, and now I dislike this series for multiple reasons, and I will go over it throughout the review tonight. But I will suggest one series from this creator that is pretty much covers the exact same topics of this series, but done better. It's her later work, March Comes In Like a Lion. It is on Netflix for those of you to check out, but it covers that sort of growing into adulthood, anxieties, issues with life, straight up to the act of depression and suicide at one point. So, I mean, it's really got that wonderful tone. And it's done much better than Honey and Clover, in my opinion.
All right. Well, so Jake, was this your first time seeing Honey and Clover?
No, it was not. It's first time in a while. And I'm very, very annoyed to say that I am 2 episodes shy of finishing my rewatch. So I'm going on memory for those final 2 episodes, but I'll get them watched this week. There was just too much going on this week. And this is why long shows can be tricky. We got to do the timing right to get them all done. But whatever the case, for all intents and purposes, my second viewing, I know this one showed me this show a long while back. What, 15 years ago, something?
Yeah,
it's been a minute. It's been a while.
I was thinking not long after it came out, I think.
And I was I think you introduced it as like the best show ever. So I kind of had high expectations, and I really liked the show. I really did. I was puzzled at the fervor with which he loved this show, but I very much liked it. But there were some issues that I had with it, especially as the show went on. And so it took me a while, again, letting him marinate for all those years, and now I'm watching it again. And I kind of feel like this viewing basically confirmed what I remembered. That it hit me, I think, very much the same way. Maybe some of the things that bothered me before bothered me a little more this time. And there may have been some things that bothered me less because I may have come to understand them a little bit more. Let's put it, that way. And I made one connection that I would not have been able to make before. And you're talking about the show is all about learning to find one's place in the world. But there's another thing that's a huge part of this series, huge part. And I was watching the show this time thinking, this could be a series by Makoto Shinkai. Yeah. Because Makoto Shinkai is obsessed with the distances between people. And that is a huge part of this show as well, is the distances between people and their inability to find themselves on the same page, no matter how much one of them might want to. And so there's definitely a frustrating element to the series because of that.
Oh, yeah.
But it also understandable too. Like it hits home painfully at times. So overall, and I will say I've never cared for the opening theme song from the first season. But I like most of the rest of the music quite a bit. And when I saw it, the art style was out of left field. I had never seen an anime that looked like this. And there are more that borrow from it. Chihayahuru has a little bit of this vibe to the art style. There's a couple of them, but it's what I remembered. Let's put it that way.
This creator has a very unique style.
Yeah.
She does these lion mouths, basically. And the only reason why they call it lion mouths is it was more toned when she did March Comes Into a Lion.
And also the
curve.
Right. Well, also sort of the almost matte sort of, I don't want to say pastel, but the kind of the light, almost watercolor art. Like it's very, it's not a rich, colorful series, But on the other hand, it works very much to its benefit in a lot of ways. It's kind of maybe like a woodblock almost might be a good way to put it or something. But anyway, so that's my basic impression. Like I said, I like the show. I feel like this time around it kind of just confirmed my initial impressions. Didn't really move too far up or down. Yeah.
Well, so this is, of course, not my first time watching the series, obviously. I watched this series not long after it came out, and it is still my favorite series after rewatching it overall. It keeps kind of switching places off and on with Maison Ikkoku, which is also one of my favorites, but sometimes Maison Ikkoku's neighbors annoy me to the point where it knocks it down to that second spot. And I'll admit, Rumiko Takahashi's two steps forward, one step back approach does annoy me a little bit. So that kind of has a switch back and forth. Hey, Roger.
Hello.
So my first time watching this, I admit, a part of this is not necessarily because it is the best series, because there are a lot of those series, there's a lot of anime that are considered some of the best that I didn't like, so I couldn't say that I would love, like Grave of the Fireflies, probably one of my least favorite films.
It's pretty depressing.
So technically, I could say it's a film that's very well done. But there's more to it. And if you want, when Mogas gets his Grave of the Fireflies discussion, or the one that we did on Inside Movies Galore, can bring more in depth to my thoughts on that. This one hit home in many ways. It really did reflect on how I felt at those times in my 20s. Characters that I knew in my life were very similar to a lot of characters that were in this. Both during the time that I was watching it, but also during the time that I was in college. So I felt a real genuine connection to this. And that really does, and that's the thing with shows and movies. There's a need to have a connection. Because if you don't, then like I say, that painting looks nice. But if you have a emotional connection to it, it does stand out more. So, like I say, I can definitely understand people not liking the series, but that's why I like the series. And we'll go more into why I like the series as it goes on. Now, as far as the characters, though, I mean, I do feel like a lot of these characters are fairly realistically portrayed. I've known people exactly like them. Even Morita, I have seen similar characters to that. Not quite to that degree, but, you know, there are liberties. So, Roger, we'll go back to you. Is this your first time experiencing Honey and Clover?
Yes, this is the first time watching it. Yeah, I've been those. I had the series for a long time, and just that because of the Viz title, I kept them in their wrappers because they were very rare. I was very low to open them up. So when this opportunity came up, I said, well, I guess I could buy the Blu-ray. I could buy them now. So I was happy about that. And so I bought the Clover 1 and 2.
Did you like what you've seen so far?
Well, I've kind of mixed feelings about it. Not because I didn't have a college life. You know, I had dorm life, I had a military life, but I haven't had school life. So it was kind of hard for me to get my head wrapped around it, and I had a hard time focusing on it. So it's one of those things that once I go down the path, it's very difficult for me to pick back up again without trying to interrupt it. So yeah, it's probably because of either my inexperience, definitely my experience with school life, or something about it. I think I would have to watch it with maybe Maison Ikkoku to see if there is some sort of dynamic. That one is more comedic, or the other one's more lifelike.
Well, let's go ahead and get started into our.
Real quick, I don't think you said how many views does this make of the show for you?
It's hard to say. I've seen it quite a few, not as many times as Brittany has apparently. If you've watched it like 6 to 7 times throughout the whole, I've seen it probably 4, maybe 5 times, and I've read the manga all the way through. because because it was in Shoujo Beat, I believe, for the longest time. So I pretty much read it from beginning to end there. And I would like to. Some people might look at it and say, "Well, maybe the manga has like a completely different ending." Not necessarily the case, no. So, but I was fairly obsessed with this. I've seen the live action Korean show. I've seen the live action movie.
I've seen the live action movie. It's quite good.
Yeah. I really wish that they had an official release here of the Korean live action, because it was quite good, but the subtitles were lacking in quality.
There's more Korean stuff come over, like that Squid Game thing. So you never know.
Never know.
Like this will come out.
There was that one company that briefly was doing tons of K-dramas.
Oh, yeah, like the.
I'm going to say Honey and Clover live action was probably a little tamer than Squid Game, though.
Yeah.
I was enthralled by it. Look at that. So I was like, "Whoa, what's this?"
You forgot that they had an entire section in the middle of that series where they were doing a death match between the other schools, and they were burning and killing them all as they went.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, she was known as the Mouse of Doom.
Yes. She exchanged her chompers for those teeth like in the Bond villain, and
oh, we were talking in the Oscar discussion about putting a short person by a tall person. Imagine putting her next to Jaws.
Oh my god, mini Jaws. So we'll go ahead and get started. We start with meeting our protagonist Yuta as he navigates his school life and his apartment setting. And a lot of times they like to use the kind of moving into apartments when it comes to some that are either private school, high school to college, as a, hey, we're all together in this. But you also get introduced to him, and of course his housemate Takumi, and of course Marita, who shows up with a whole bunch of croquettes and then basically falls asleep, and then they realize he's basically giving them the croquettes in exchange for waking him up, because if he doesn't get to his class in time, he's going to have to take another year of school. But it's good that we get to meet, of course, three of these characters just right off. With Yuta being kind of that, really Yuta is more the stand-in for many of us, but he is that kind of person who's confused about what he wants to do, and that shows further and further as it goes on. Takumi already having a good idea as to what he wants, but what he wants is not always what he can get. And then, of course, nobody really understands Marita's motivation as he goes through. At least not at this point in the series.
No.
But what do y'all think of this this trio as they were introduced?
As they're introduced?
It's just a big question of who they were in the beginning, anyways. You know, just one guy that came in that was half dead sleep with the croquettes.
Yeah.
Remember, and the other two, I don't know. It was just new to me, so I didn't have an opinion.
Again, like I said before, Shinobu's the kind of character that when he comes in a blaze of weirdness, and I tend to like these kind of characters right out of the gate. He's the Yotsuya-san of this series. But just like Yotsuya, Shinobu eventually gets on my nerves. But initially, he just made me kind of crack up with his antics. Yuta is, like you said, kind of the stand-in. He's kind of the regular guy, the guy that, you feel like you gotta root for, or the, what do they call it? Like the stand-in.
Yuta is also mostly the narrator of the series.
He's who you see the
Well,
story
they all
point of view
narrated
from, at least for the most part.
At first.
Yeah.
season 2 in particular, I think, did a lot more with that other story that he had nothing to do with. But definitely early on, he is the warm light that this world revolves around.
Yeah.
And Takumi Mayama he's this serious guy. Like, he's a little bit older. He's he's sort
intellectual.
He's sort of like the den mother for this particular.
Yeah, he definitely has a big brother.
Senpai.
Yeah. He's technically Shinobu is by far the senpai, but he doesn't actually. And yeah.
See, I thought Shuji was the senpai of the group for the most part, whereas
he's the sensei.
He's the sensei. Yeah, he's the teacher.
Yeah.
He finished school.
Yeah.
Well, see, that brings in one big issue I have with this series.
Yeah.
All these students, or all 5 of these students that we have the proposal throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
And Shuji's in charge of them all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about your college experience, but since I did go to an art school, you wouldn't have a architect major with a graphic arts major, with a painter, with a pottery person. It was really weird to see this.
He's not directly in charge
of them.
Like, Ayumi, you see her direct instructor several times.
Poor Shinobu's instructor.
Yes, poor Shinobu. Yes. The guy would have retired if it were not for this one student.
Shinobu reminds me of Ryan Reynolds' first film that I remember him in, besides Waitress. Van Wilder. He was the Van Wilder of the group.
Yeah,
it came out around the same time as this series. Yeah, I would say definitely.
Technically, Shuji is in charge of art history, which all of them have had to take, but they all end up gravitating towards him as sort of a student advisor more than than the one that's teaching them. And that's not necessarily untrue. I know that my student advisor, for instance, had people from all over that they were doing, because they were a doctoral student that was doing it. And so it's possible that they might be an advisor, or it might be somebody that they knew when they were younger from the class and they just liked hanging out with that professor, which is a little bit odd in my opinion, because I didn't hang around with any of my professors. But it's
when you're in art school, you hang out with your professors because you're in classes usually for about 4 to 8 hours a day. So you get to know your professors.
Yeah. That makes sense. I could see that. Like, some of the more artistically inclined professors at Roanoke, like I know one of my poetry instructor definitely was like this with a lot of her students. She had a very close bond with some of her students, and so I could definitely see that.
And I'll admit that's one area that I don't relate as well with, because I looked at that as sort of like, well, it's like how I look at work. I don't have any interest in hanging out with coworkers or bosses. Work is work. Home life is home life, because any one of your coworkers or your boss could eventually stab you in the back if you get too close and ruin your entire career for life, which is not a good thing. And
of course, and you also eventually learn more about Shuji and why he is kind of almost backtracked a little bit into the student life, because it's like he has his own issues, but
one of which is he is kind of taking care of our little resident mouse character,
Hagami Hanamoto.
And she is a very diminutive character, but also very talented, almost a savant in her abilities.
A woman beyond her years.
She is a savant. That's why she's already getting accreditation and people coming to her for magazine reports and all that about her work. So I mean, she already is a savant. She's a savant in that sense.
And more so because she's very introverted too. I mean, I don't think she's, she has some expression, but she's not like outgoing.
It's
So
interesting.
it's internalized.
I look at it as interesting because her and Shinobu are both two sides of the same coin. Both of them are very talented artists, but whereas she is much more introverted and
She's extrovert.
he is more of an extrovert. He wears his feelings on his sleeve, yet doesn't at the same time. He's an enigma in that sense. She keeps most of her feelings hidden, yet still inadvertently shows them anyway. It's a very interesting thing. It's sort of like they're both very different characters when you look at them from the surface to what they really are.
And there's also the question of work ethic. Like she works, and he works at avoiding work.
Well, he does other work.
He does. And but his brother almost has to abduct him and force him into it. And it's like
and shows back up with piles of money afterward.
Yeah.
It is always broke.
Yes. Well, a
which
mooch.
we get into later on,
yes.
Of course.
And that's one of the big things, is one of the biggest differences between him and Hagu. Is Hagu, it tries very hard not to cause trouble for other people. And Shinobu is shameless about putting on other people and just doing whatever he needs to at the moment.
And then of course there's our main character, Ayumi, which she's a student.
Yep.
So I mean, all of these, like Ayumi is a pottery student. Takumi is architecture. What is Shinobu's major?
Shinobu is a graphic artist.
Okay. Yuta is kind of doing.
Although he took sculpture for some reason also. So
I was gonna say he does what he wants.
Do what I want.
And like I said, I think Yuta is also architecture, if I recall correctly.
He didn't know what he was until the second season. Really.
Yeah.
He was kind of just floating around that area, more general studies, but leaning towards it. That lovely tower of his.
Actually, I'd say more woodwork for him.
Yeah.
But she is an interesting character because though we get to see one of the first love entanglements just between Yuta and Hagumi when he first sees and falls in love with her at first sight.
Yeah.
We also know that Ayumi has been in love with Takumi for a long time.
Yeah.
But he has feelings elsewhere. So. And we've got all but one. Actually, all of our characters are in the background as you can see them.
With the exception of Shuda.
And Ayumi, it gets even more interesting and complicated. First, because she and Takumi really do have a strong sort of relationship, but it's hard for her because he sees her as a very good friend, but he just doesn't look at her that way. And meanwhile, she is from the shopping district. Her family runs a liquor store, and she and her compatriots, what they call themselves, the Third Generation Club, I think it is, or something like that. They're all guys her age who are madly in love with her, with the exception of one who's more her friend. But she only has eyes for Takumi, so it's very. There's a lot of broken hearts in her wake.
Are we going to do episode by episode breakdown on this one?
I'm probably going to keep it more general because otherwise we'll.
Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and state the love interests of this entire show, which is most of this show, is based around love and interests. All the love story is summed up in episode 3.
Yeah.
Episode 3 explains exactly where everybody goes by the end of the series. You don't need to keep following this series for the romantic lead if you know that from the get-go. Episode 3 explains everything.
Really?
Episode 3 is having everybody get rejected in love, and everybody in the end, none of them end up together.
This is a show about one-sided relationships where it all goes in a circle because they're all looking at someone else.
But that's the idea, is that that the unrequited love. I mean, there's out of the relationships, there was really no hope, even from the beginning. It didn't even take to episode 3 to realize that Ayumi was never going to be with Takumi.
I would be fine with unrequited love with 1 or 2 characters, but going through 5 characters, it just drags the series down. And this is one of the reasons why I really am starting to hate this series.
If you want the opposite, by Marmalade Boy. Just love pentagons.
Absolutely.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I said this time around I was thinking of it as being like a Shinkai one where it's all about the distance between people, because a few of them close the distance significantly by the end of the show, but I don't think anyone really ends up fully in a great loving relationship. Some of them come close, but in most cases, I think Takumi comes probably the closest to being with the one he wants.
Yeah.
Well, he is staying in the house with her at the end in Spain, but he's got a fight with a rival there. And then Ayumi's settling with the other guy. I forget his name.
I think his name was also one of the. I think Takumi was, but it was a different surname or something. Yeah, Takumi Nomiya. Yeah. Nomiya and Mayama.
My character chart with me, so I can remember all the names, because I do not associate.
That's what I do as well. I think Takumi had another relationship
and of course, Rika Harada is the one that Mayama wants.
Well, Risa is the one that Takumi ends up with. And that is Shoji's former classmate / love interest he had as through it, but he got unrequited love and ended up. And can we spoil it? Can we just spoil the ending?
Well, spoilers, everyone.
I mean,
can we just spoil it? Because it's one of the moments that if you watch the series, it infuriates you with who Hagumi ends up with, and it's more because we didn't even cover Shoji's. Shoji is her uncle, basically.
Yeah.
Is
I thought that's
her uncle, something like that.
Yeah. And they end up together.
What?
Yeah.
They end up together in the end.
Yes.
But that's the thing.
In the manga or in this?
In both.
I'm hoping that what's his name? Shinobu. Was it Shinobu and Haku? Shinobu and Haku would get together.
Well, that's why I say I don't think by episode 3 you knew that she was going to reject both of them.
No, you didn't know she was going to reject both. There was a hint that she was rejecting both.
I mean, the only one that you knew for certain was not going to happen by episode 3 was Takumi and Ayumi, but that was obvious from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because
this was the episode she starts crying when Shinobu talks about love, and then also when Yuta starts going towards her.
Because really, at that point, she doesn't even know much about love or what love is, and that character grows considerably throughout the series because she was overly sheltered and bullied growing up.
Yeah, which I think maybe had a little bit of a sheltered life from her mother or a grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
her parents. I think her mother died and her father got remarried.
Mm-hmm.
He gets introduced late at the very end. He gets introduced. That he has a new wife and child.
Very briefly.
But very briefly. And she ends up going back to live with her uncle at her grandmother's.
Hagu has a very tragic backstory in life. I mean, really and truly, her family, for the most part, has shunted her and kicked her to the curb for the most part. And the only person who's really been there for her has been Shuji, both while she was still at home or later on.
I think this
Now,
would take her for a relationship at the end.
See, I was under the understanding that Shinobi, she in fact did love Shinobi, but
she did.
But it was the arts that she chose, and she chose her uncle to be that person to help guide her to it.
It could have ended up without the accident. It could have ended up in a different way. And I will say that Yuta, of course, I don't think that Yuta ever had a chance with Hagu. Not really because they wouldn't necessarily be compatible, but just because it really wasn't. If for him to live his life, he just wasn't able to settle down into that.
He would go throughout the series talking about how if he was to start a life there, he'd have to find a job, he'd have to find this, and in the end, he's like, "Oh, I'd have to work 4 jobs, and I'd never get a chance to take care of her." And it's like,
the typical Japanese lifestyle.
Well, he does have this sort of, and this is something I can, I guess, relate to probably more than I really want to, is the idea that he, for a long time, he really is lacking direction. It's one of those shows, you see these shows fairly often, where you have these characters who are all pretty solidly, like all of them are wondering where they're going to go, but some of them are much better at finding answers than, Yuta just is terrible at finding those answers. And he does tend to get kind of caught up in the minutiae, the details, like you said, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to do this? And Takumi gives him this idea of, I want to make enough and be able to where if something happens to the woman I love, I can just take care of her. But he has found a place where that might be an attainable goal. And Yuta being impressionable and directionless, that just kind of almost puts more pressure on him, and he can't figure out how to, how would I do that? It's kind of,
And I think a lot of us can identify with Yuta more than we want to admit at some point in our life. Because I say, well, none of us know. I am better than that. I've always know what I want to do in life. I've never struggled over decisions or thoughts because I am there. And a lot of us hope that we are that kind of person, that we are, but sometimes you end up rudderless. Now, he's rudderless for a lot longer than a lot of people are. But sometimes that just is the case. And I think in the modern times, it's even worse because a lot of people, well, not so much these days, but I'd say probably anybody going to college in the early 2000s or so had been thrown into college saying, just go. Everything's going to work out. And then with no clue as to what to do later. And I think that really does speak, especially to millennials and that generation, maybe late Gen Xers. I know that was what I was told growing up. Go to college. That's what you need to do. What do I do in college? Don't worry about it. Just go there. And it's like, that's not the advice that people should be giving. And they're not giving that advice nowadays, which is good. I think it's a positive thing for society. I think the idea of learning what you want to do and then going forward, that tends to lead to better motivation and usually a better end. Sometimes. That's why I say usually. Not always. But it's like I say, Yuta is an interesting character. I could see where Yuta would infuriate a lot of people just because he has a hard time, where he struggles with these type of things. I know for me, I had it took me a long time before I really knew what I was going to do. And then when I thought I knew what I was going to do, then the job market threw me into a different place altogether.
Right.
So I still didn't know what I was going to do.
Now, I will tell you, there is one thing that I actually strongly envy him in this series, and that is he does finally find some answers. He gets a strong hint at the direction his life could take when he does that bike ride across Japan, and he falls in with that group of restorers. And it gives him an idea he never even thought to have of something he could do. But I tell you, like, I would love to have had that as an option, to just bike cross country and just do it. Just go with it. That would have been awesome, but I never had that option.
I did like that part where they find out he's going, and Shinobu's like, oh, he takes the cash and starts trying to push all of it into the machine.
Do what?
You see it because he has these emotional outbursts, occasionally. But that's the thing, is like none of them are truly bad people.
No.
Even I always think of him Marita because the first time I heard it was a fan translation.
Yeah.
But
well, technically it would be. But,
well, yeah, that's how they refer to him.
Yeah.
But even he has quite a soft spot for people. It just takes longer to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But who else? I guess I should. Who else has thoughts on Yuta's struggles? I guess
I mean, he is supposed to be sort of the reflection of the every person, the inner. He's the one you're supposed to focus in on and be like, that's mostly me. For me, he never was, and partially because out of the group of the five, I was more the Ayumi in college.
Yeah.
I knew where I wanted to go. I was specialized in the arts and whatnot, and people focused on me because of what I could do. But I wasn't a, prodigy. I was just really good at what I did. So, I mean, it was not really a pull-in for me, but at the same time, I could see bits and pieces where it would pull in. And I do feel kind of broken up because I do feel like the changing of the narrative, especially from season 1 to season 2, I feel more in season 1, he's more the narrator. But then you get to season 2 and he's almost absent from the narration. And I feel like it just shatters you and breaks you away from caring about him. So I actually really don't care for him as a character that much. I'm like, oh yeah, he's there. That's it. I don't get much invested into him because he kind of just disappears in his own narrative. And it's like, okay.
Do you think that you would have liked the series more if you identified more with him as a character, or with the main character as the character?
I mean, I have to stand by it. March comes in as a lion, much better. Can identify with the character who's kind of like Yuta, but it's also got a little bit of Hagu's anxiety issues and whatnot. A little bit more of a personality. And then if I wanted to go, okay, let's do an anime about an art school, Blue Period. By far, much better anime about art school living, art school life. Amazing title. And it just came out. Netflix, please do a season 2. Oh my God.
So is Blue Period something about about Picasso, or is it something else?
No. It is about a high school student finding himself in art for the first time in his life, discovering art, and then deciding that's what he wants in life.
Netflix?
It is on Netflix. It's only 12 episodes long. It is a beautiful, beautiful anime, both in look and story.
Now, I will say one thing that I like about this over most of the high school is that it's not in high school.
Well,
these are actually adults. Yes, Hagu doesn't look like an adult.
Yeah.
But Hagu is 18 when it starts, 20 when it ends. And I have known people who have not grown up much over the years like that. But It is. I do like the idea of it being a college as opposed to high school.
Mm-hmm.
To me, high school anime, there's 1.5 million of them.
Yeah.
About everything in high school. And
I mean, there are better college though, in my opinion. Golden Time's a great college aged group story.
Genshin's a good one.
Genshin's good, but I mean, Genshin is also basically more about the anime group. It's more about the group, which is, I mean, Blue Period is more about that art group than it is the high school, because he's not really in the high school. It's more he's going to a night school to learn about art and learn how to do art, and then trying to get into this art college that is pristine, because he couldn't afford any other college, but he needed to do better.
You have to get the hard one to get in there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh no.
So, with the let's see here. So we've talked about Yuta. We've talked a little bit about Haku and Shuji's relationship at the end. Does anybody have any other thoughts about Hagu while we've been talking about her a little bit?
Hagame.
Yep.
It is a little distracting at first. Her appearance is distracting the first time you're watching the show.
Mouse!
And yes, I did feel horrible for the way that Shinobu kept bullying her for her size. It's like, and that was one of the things I found a little problematic, was her getting such a crush on Shinobu.
Who bullies her?
Yeah, when he bullies her, and it's like, I don't know about that. And then, of course, he knows about it, but he doesn't really know how to deal with that. And he kind of...
Shoot, he even runs away because of that.
But
he kind of runs away from his own feelings. But he's a different animal. We'll cover him in a minute.
Yeah.
I look at this more as a character study than an actual like episodic nature. Well, actually, it's a way that, because it flows like the seasons, like time itself with the characters.
Generally, though, I like Hagu. Generally, I really like the sort of, she and Ayumi kind of have a sister bond that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I like how I like how there's that anime trope of the girl who's just wonderfully skilled except for cooking, and her cooking, stay away. But I like how the two of them are like feeding into each other's issues because they like each other's cooking.
That's the thing. It's not about bad cooking. It's about the fact that they have odd taste.
Yes.
How about that episode of Yuta's birthday that they completely forgot in the Twister game?
I love that episode.
I mean, they forget about that, and they forget about his graduation. I mean, they keep forgetting about Yuta. So even the anime itself, the manga itself, is trying to tell you to forget about Yuta. He's not important.
A lot of that is because he is such a mild-mannered character that, though they like him, he does kind of vanish into the background.
And the girls, they're like, "Hey, we don't want to play. That means that you would probably be looking up our skirts and stuff, you know."
I just feel like the Twister, because you've got Shinobu like, oh shoot, I gotta do something. Hold on, you have paint? Okay, look, it's Twister. He takes every color of paint that he has.
Yeah, instead of
no, it's not every color he has. It's every color Hagu has.
Yeah.
And if I were her, I would fucking kill him because that paint is expensive.
Yeah. But it's like, what is Twister normally? 5 colors, 6 colors?
Yeah, this is
it's like each one is
I think it's like 4 colors, isn't it? It's like 4 rows.
It's 4 colors originally, and he made like 26 colors.
Something crazy. It was crazy. It was kind of crazy. They had the cards they pulled out and said with this and this and this and that.
Well, that's how you play Twister.
It was kind of funny. I like that episode. Everybody was actually screaming in pain and agony, and everybody's in horror. See if there's somebody going to bust in half.
Yeah.
I've got this.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like it's about those little moments that go in that
You'd be lucky in art school if you could actually have the time to do a Twister game, honestly.
That is true, but that's the same for anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that there are very many high school animes that really reflect real Japanese high school life.
I doubt it. I think
Because real
the high
Japanese
school
high
anime
school
is
life.
the most tropic one of them all.
Oh, I remember Anime America did a video on it recently when they were talking about, like, no, one, everybody's uniform, you're
Mhm.
studying, relationships are pretty much forbidden.
Pretty
Most
much.
extracurricular activity is pretty much forbidden except for what they sanction, depending on the school.
Depending on the school.
And almost everything is geared towards graduate college, get a job, then you can start to define who you are after that.
Or they're
And
saving the world against whatever invasion it is.
I like
And
there was
dimensional
something that
distortion
somebody
to figure out.
there was something that somebody said once, and I can't remember who said it, that a lot of these high school anime are not necessarily what was reflected of what they did, but as a reflection of what they would have liked to have been able to do.
Probably.
Again,
Yeah.
suggest Blue Period, because honestly, it does show a great bit of high school life that is more appropriate to Japan.
So
And the main character is only an ass about high school at the beginning with his friends, where they're like, "Oh, well, we don't give a crap about our high school. We're punks and all that." They're out late, and and the school's like, "No, be respectful, be honest,
Yeah.
focus on what you want to do in life."
Now, by softening it a bit, I do feel like Honey and Clover feels more like a reflection of what I could go through in college here when I was there, because there were free times. There were times where people would go into parties. It was study, lots of study.
Yeah.
But there were free times and things that people could do that could reflect on how empty your stomach was or whatnot if you wanted to. That would be more my grad school experience. But the general, I mean, there's just that kind of, again, I wonder if a lot of that is more of a fantasy ideal as to this is kind of that reflection of what we would like to see.
Mm-hmm.
The college, showing them in their classes and their colleges, that's how art school was, and basically is. I mean, you're spending a lot of your hours working on your projects because that's how your grades are done usually. I don't know how Shinobu is freaking in college as long as he is with his attitude. But I mean, hey, whatever. But I mean, yeah, in art school, you have a double end. You still have studying classes, so you still have to do your academics, but you're going to have to do, your art projects, which we're seeing them do in here. They'd be a bit more frequently. I think Ayumi probably shows the most of doing artwork, with Hagu second most.
Yeah. Hagu is one I'm still not quite certain what she does. I mean, class-wise, other than because even when she's at the school, she feels more sheltered than actual attending classes, other than projects.
They said she's in painting classes, but she is trying anything and everything while she's there. So,
and she is an interesting character in and of herself. I look at her as kind of a combination between two people I knew in college. Personality-wise by one and a body type for another. But she kind of had the idea of being this person, but sometimes having a lot of their own personal hang-ups or issues that have happened in life kind of hold them back from what's going on or separate them from reality to a point. But sometimes college making it a freeing experience, allowing her to finally start to have friends, reach out, make relationships. And in truth, you could tell at the beginning she really wasn't ready for any type of romantic relationship. And I think that was reflected. Marita, I think, understood that. Or sorry, Shinobu. But yeah, Shinobu, I think, understood that. And he was one of those characters that I went the opposite that Jacob did. He was a character I hated at the beginning. because I usually hate those characters. Like I hate Mr. Yatsuya. I think he's a terrible individual and a terrible character. And I'm not actually, between him and some of the other neighbors, they're my least favorite characters of those series. But with him, as he went on, as I could understand him more as a person or as a character, I realized that, okay, he's more than just that weirdo that's there just for the comedic relief. Because they could have just left him as that dude that just was there to give laughs to it, but they decided to do a little bit more with him. And I might be, again, I'm probably in the minority, but I did actually like the development with it. I like the fact that he was that kind of free spirit that had to nail himself down a bit in order to help his family, because he was between that and the fact that he cared so much about so many things.
See, I kind of felt he was a bully, and then they tried to give him more of a background, and he was just so unrealistic, in my opinion, that he kind of, the more and more I watch, the less and less I'm like, there's no way this character could do what he's doing. And I mean, the fact that he wins an Academy Award for doing all the special effects and writing the movie for a George Lucas Star Wars movie. All right, first off, Star Wars will never win an Academy Award for the movie. Okay, never gonna happen. The Academy won't do it. But I mean, the fact that it's one person, when you can watch in the credits, the 50 or so people that do special effects.
A visual effects sometimes goes to one person, and it usually goes to no more than half a dozen.
He probably had a team working underneath him. But again, that's the thing, is he's not supposed to be realistic in what he does. He's supposed to be accomplishing all of these weird things, and people are supposed to scratch their head and go, how the hell did he do that?
Now, I do love the stunt he pulled, where he essentially called out the director on stage and said, basically, I did the work and you just you locked me in a room.
And a lot of the stuff that he's doing to Hagu, I don't feel like is intentional meanness, but more just he sees her as an inspiration and ends up gravitating towards. Yes, it comes across as bullying at first, but he's not doing it. Again, he's not doing it out of meanness. Matter of fact, I don't see any meanness in the character as you go. At first, I can misinterpret it, but nothing is done necessarily out of I hate you or this. It's more out of he's that free spirit.
Well,
it goes to the Hagu being like, no, stay back, keep back, and everybody's like, keep back, and he just keeps getting in her face. That's a little too far, and in my opinion.
Another thing is that he is definitely a full-on narcissist, and I have issues with narcissists, and that's part of his thing. That you're right. He doesn't intentionally bully her. He doesn't intentionally ruin Yuta's.
He doesn't think about consequences, but he's extremely in the moment.
He doesn't intentionally piss Mayama off at every turn. Well, maybe just a little. But
there's a little bit there, but they've been friends for longer.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing about he's got a weird flip side where once he does wrap his mind around a situation, and if he realizes he is doing something bad, like when he realizes in those few moments where he does realize he's causing her some true pain, he falls over himself in order to try and rectify the situation.
Sometimes, yes.
But it's about him getting it through his head. Right. And that's the thing.
And one thing I will say, this was, for me, structurally a problematic episode. But I was interested in what was covered in the episode. And that was the flashback within a flashback, sort of, where you see Shinobu and Kaoru's childhood and their father and you really learn where Shinobu gets it from.
Oh yeah,
and
the same free spirit.
Seeing his father in action, it explained a lot, and I thought that was a fun character. But again, I felt like structurally, yes, it explained that whole plot line, but that was really far afield from the story that we've been following up to that point. So that, and they devoted an entire episode to it.
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of, that was kind of weird.
I think they could have done that in more of a gradual way.
Yeah.
To give it in. I do feel it was good that they were finally explaining some of the stuff behind it. Once they started inserting his brother into things, it got to be more and more of the, okay, what's really going on behind the scenes? Because it's not just him mysteriously disappearing. There's definitely a reason behind it. Before the brother, it could have just, well, he's weird.
Well, yeah, but the quickness of them revealing that he realized Hagume's feelings, and then suddenly he like left on an airplane. That was like very short.
That was him not being able to deal with it. He didn't understand what to do, and he couldn't cope with it. That was a self-centered move. But she and herself, she knew why he left. She understood him a lot better than most of the people did that were around him, but said, no, I'm glad he's gone, and he can come back when he knows what he wants. I mean, that was pretty much what she said at the end. Not exactly, but
Yeah, more or less.
More or less. So what did y'all think of his brother?
I mean, he's a character. I mean, he's there.
Yeah.
we really only know about his brother from one episode and a little bit after that one episode. And that's it. And it's all in the second season. We know nothing about Shinobu through the first season other than his erratic behaviors.
Right. I mean, we certainly meet Kaoru in those episodes, and the episode where Shinobu goes to America, and you see more of him there, and he does drive you to the airport, and so you see a little more of him, but still at that point he's still kind of a cipher. Like, you don't even really know what his relationship is with Shinobu at that point. You just kind of like, and what's this guy doing?
You don't even find out he's his brother until he takes you to the airport.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're just kind of mysteriously catch him as this mysterious guy who just comes and takes Shinobu away, and it's like, okay.
I do think that I don't know whether there was that thought process. Okay, I've got to hurry things up at the end, or whether it was almost I really need to just explain it. I'll go ahead now. I do feel like they put too much speed into trying to explain what was going on. I think that it's something that could have been stretched out a little bit more evenly, starting it maybe with the introduction of the brother a little bit earlier into the season one, giving him a little bit more to do. And there was definitely some personality back there that I do think, if he had been given more time to develop as a character, there would have been more interest. Like when he was like getting his revenge finally on the person who bought out their company and betrayed them. That was you could tell his definite like heartache and sorrow and all this stuff and the anger at it.
But that part wasn't romance, so we didn't want to cover it much in the romance.
Yeah. I mean, a good example, we talked a little bit about, just briefly about Takumi no Miya, but also you've got his co-workers, Kazushi Yamazaki and...
I love his co-workers.
And Miwako Teshigawara.
And the dog. I love the dog.
And the leader, yes, leader is a great character. But they are all given that slow build, that
Yes.
gradual build up. Like they're introduced naturally in season 1, and you see more and more of them.
Yeah, that's
And when they're main characters in season 2, you expect it by that point because they're an organic part of the story.
They are
you know.
fun. They would be coworkers I
Yeah.
would have enjoyed working with because they seem like such fun coworkers to have.
I
Now
don't
what about
know.
Mario
I
and
don't
Luigi?
know. I mean, to have a coworker trying to hook you up with somebody. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, she's kind of Milako's an odd individual.
I like how she's like got the whole concept, like even though she's in her like early 30s, she's acting like she's in her 50s. It's like, oh god, this massage chair is great.
I would probably not dispute that, but
But I don't know. I enjoyed those people from his office, except for, I mean, his boss kind of. I did not get a lot of feeling out of him whether he was okay. This is truly it. Even I don't even think that he felt like he understood whether it was truly it for Ayumi, him liking Ayumi. Other than it did feel different to him than a lot of his other conquests. And
you're talking about the other Takumi.
I'm talking about other Takumi.
Other Takumi.
And which is also funny because if you look at it, Mayama actually had a past very similar to Nomiya. Nomiya, I mean, Mayama just kind of grew out of it towards finding somebody that he truly had a passion for quicker than Nomiya did. Nomiya kind of still had that same, because I mean, they explained at the beginning where he's kind of like that heartbreaker, moving from person to person early on. And of course, she gives him the old kick to the head because you got to have that slapstick in an anime.
honestly, a well-deserved kick, because I think while I have issues with Shinobu, I get more and more issues with Takumi. The more and more I watch this, and I got this time around, I got creepy stalker vibes from him.
No, the series
that's because he is. I mean, he goes through her emails. He goes through like everything with Rika, and she even says, "You went through my emails." You know,
the series.
At which point, I would have just kicked his ass to the curb if I knew that shit. I mean, you don't do that to a person, and he does it, and it just makes me want to dislike that character even more. And yet he's the one that ends up in the mostly likely stable relationship in the end.
Right.
Of an unstable relationship nonetheless, but still.
Right. It definitely, and I'll admit, I've always gravitated, I think the first time I saw this, and definitely this time, I very much gravitate toward Ayumi as probably my favorite character. And part of that is empathy for what she has to go through with Maya. I mean, now a lot of that's on her. She could have cut him loose sooner. But yeah, if that's the object of your affection,
and again,
and one of the worst things, it's not just this creepy stalkerish thing, but other Takumi calls him on it at some point. He's like, you just want to keep her on the back burner in case you crash and burn with Rika. And it's like, he has told her in no uncertain terms, I'm not into you, but he won't set her loose to find someone else, you know? And it's like,
The one thing I'll give the series about it, though, is that they do keep calling him on. And they say, you're a bit of a creeper doing that, or or why are you dragging this poor girl along like this? He gets hit with this repeatedly throughout. Of course, it doesn't matter to him because he's got his goal, and he goes for it. His weird kind of like big brother type feelings for Ayumi gets really kind of mixed. But I do think that they get it exactly on the guy gets it exactly on the head, saying it's like you're keeping her on the back burner for if you crash and burn with Rika.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, Ayumi, I understand where she comes from with the feelings of, sometimes you just cannot shut off how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a difficult thing. That's one of the reasons why I know one person, I talked with this a while back, and someone said, well, it's unrealistic because as soon as she knew that he wasn't interested in her, she would just shut the feelings off for it and go somebody else. I'm like, that's not how it works in reality. I don't know how. I envy people who can do something like that.
Especially because despite his obvious shortcomings and possessiveness, they actually are friends.
Yes,
they actually do have, for the most part, a functioning friendship. And that does make things even messier and stickier.
The thing is, whenever they get together alone is when things become difficult, because then they can't come up with anything to say to each other.
For most part,
there are moments of, okay, what the fuck do I say? Kind of thing going on between them. So,
as the series goes on, she becomes more confident, more able to do that in his presence. But yeah, early on, it's awkward. Yeah.
I think so. Out of the group of characters, which ones do you all feel? Which ones do y'all feel grew the most?
Well, I mean,
are they all the same at the beginning?
We haven't really addressed Ayumi. I mean, we kind of talked about her, but let's talk about. Let's go down the main cast here.
Yeah.
Ayumi being she's a decent girl. She's sort of the jilted girl in the end of this. That she has these feelings for Takumi and she never gets it. She finds the other Takumi. And they have maybe something going on. It's on and off with her feelings towards him. And also, I mean, I feel she had the most real. She's probably the most real character out of the series, in my opinion, because she is literally in it. She graduates college, but she's still at the college to try and get her connections as at work.
Right.
To do. And that's basically what you kind of do, especially in art college, because you kind of have to keep those connections. And I mean, unfortunately, I don't have much of those connections these days.
And also, as she pointed out, the kiln was there, and she couldn't, she couldn't buy it.
Much cheaper.
That's an expensive thing. That's an expensive item. Well, I mean, you can make one. You could. I don't know about Japan's laws. With building a kiln, because you could make one with bricks, technically. It's not that hard to make a kiln. The problem is would it be allowed in Japan? And technically, she would be working out of her parents' house or shop, which is as we learn, a sake store. And she comes up with the idea of how I'll make sake cups, I'll do designs for individuals, and she shows exactly how one would develop their brand. So I do feel she's probably the most realistic character of the bunch.
Although she does get that wicked anime kick, which is kind of fun.
Hey, I will not argue that I don't have that wicked anime kick when I was her age. So,
and also she has the thing of, again, growing up in a liquor store, she does drink like a fish, and that leads to some interesting moments. But she also is pretty good at holding it overall.
Not as good as the main character in Night is Short.
No, not that good. But actually, I'd like to see the two of them hanging out. That'd be a fun thing. That would be actually, yeah, that girl wandering through this cast would be an interesting film. But yeah, of course, you have the thing where where Ayumi is introduced to other Takumi and his company through Takumi. Like he had used a couple of her pieces, and they really liked them. They got good feedback, so they're like, "Let's get more." And then they meet her, and they're like, "Let's get more." And it's she ends up kind of becoming an unofficial part of their team. And then when she finally meets Rika herself, she's actually able to impress Rika and get some work going there. And that was when I kind of liked how, for all of Mayama's, again, he probably got into some real creepy territory there.
Yes.
In the end, overall, I kind of feel like that plot line turned out decently for all involved,
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to think it's probably if you break it down, it's probably the majority of the plot is Ayumi's relationship.
Part of it, yeah.
And from what I was thinking, I mean, I pretty much from episode 4, I think she's got this relationship scenario is going with her, and Takumi's already graduated by episode 4, I believe.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, her business, because she starts the business end while she's still in college, and you pretty much get that relationship just straight from most of season 1 and most of season 2.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, as characters, I think each of them does show growth. Now, that might be in disagreement with others in here, but I do feel like all of the characters grow in some way. Even Shinobu, in his own way, grows as a character.
Yeah, he gets out of college.
Yeah, he does get actually.
It goes right back in.
He then gets out at the end. He does get out at the end.
Yeah, I do like how it's like, no, giving me your Oscars, and it's like, take a closer look at it. It's like,
I wonder if that was actually a riff on Spielberg actually using an Oscar as an art project.
And the sad thing is, I did know somebody who was like that in college, who had passed enough of their classes to keep going, and was in their 8th year of undergrad. And he was so. Yes, it's possible to do what he does.
Oh no, there's no doubt it's possible. It's just really, really. I mean, you got to think of the expense at that point.
Oh no, yeah, but that's the thing. He's got the money to do it.
Yeah,
and obviously they're funneling it in for this. This is probably where most of why he's mostly broke most of the time is that half of it goes towards that project, and then the other goes back towards keeping him going on his classes. But he is. But yeah, I remember that guy. Well, it was his 8th year, and he was like, "Well, yeah, but I'm not sure if this is really where I want to go, so I might change off and do something else." Because he could, but this one kept switching majors and saying that you may even. I'm not going to mention names because I'm not, just in case. But but I remember that, and he always would hang out to drink afterwards, and he had a girlfriend who was not very happy with his kind of listlessness and lack of direction.
Yeah.
Which is different from Maria. And let's see. But out of the characters, who do you all feel was the character that developed the most out of all of them? Well, as far as like emotionally and, well, I mean, just really emotionally as a human being.
I think the character that I got the most out of, the most emotion, was probably Hagame. in the end, even though I know that she was like the centerpiece of like all these like love triangles.
Well, just one.
There was Shugi.
Love quadrangle.
Yeah, watch
quadrangle. Yeah. But I think the fact that she ended up being able to realize that her art was what she's all about. That's what it chalked up to. Is that it when there is a group of artistic people, sometimes there's that one or two individuals that end up going for the vision of what art is. That's savantism, and that's what she was after in the end. And I think that that's kind of the focal point of making art in general. You want to be that person that's always making art.
Well, I mean, if you study and you do it, because I mean, I'm of the concept. I mean, I've been homeless. I've went through art, but I was still doing art while I was homeless, and still selling art when I was homeless. I mean, it's as an artist, you don't if you put it down early on. So basically, it would be around college. I knew so many people who dropped out of the art school that I was in because they found it too difficult, too tough. But for me, I could never put down a pencil. And it is something, and I didn't want to cover much of the very last bit with what happens to Hagu, but it is important with her character that she has her right hand damaged by glass, and she has nerve damage. I kind of know what it's like going through. I don't know if anybody else here has gone through nerve damage.
Yeah, it's
I'm currently going through a nerve issue where I'm here's my left hand. It's being very functional today. There are days where it's basically just dead. Same with my foot. And so, I mean, if that were with my right hand, I'd really, really be in the shape that Hagu was in the hospital, where I would be breaking down because I am right-handed and that is my livelihood. If I were to lose my ability to use my right hand or to use my eyes to create, I would be just completely at a loss. So, I mean, I see that with Hagu. Although I don't see her develop much. I feel like she came in that way and left that way. And I don't really see her with the love, though, either. So, I mean, for me, I have to say the one that developed the most, I have to give it to Yuta, because Yuta actually found what he wanted to do in life.
Yeah.
He learned about love, and he had learned about loss, and he went through and found what he wanted to do with his life. So that's the most growth of a character, because we don't really see. Second most would probably be Ayumi. I don't want to say Takumi or Shinobu ever really grew. They just like I said, they left the college.
I think that I would say that there was growth on all 5 of their parts, but I would agree that Ayumi and Yuta were far and away the top ones. I do think Hagu had some growth, but at the end of the day, she and Takumi in particular, they had their obsessions. They had their singular goals, that was what they were all about. And that never really changed. In her case, though, it did come into sharper focus. She was more aware of it later on, which is a little bit of growth. And I think Shinobu became a little more focused about what he was on about. But yeah, I really do think Yuta and Ayumi had a lot more personal growth than the 2 of them did. Than the other 3 did, I think.
I'd agree with that. I do think that Hagu had one thing at the end that did come where Hagu knew that she wanted to do art, but everything else in life was uncertain for her. And I feel like by making the decision that she did, it was the only decision really that she could make, to tell you the truth. But she still made that decision. And that was tough. I know that was tough for her. You could tell that, because she had to understand that, yes, I'm having to give up a lot to do this, but this is indeed what I want to do. Now, do I think that's as great a growth? I think it's more like one step forward. It's an important step, but it's a step forward. Whereas, I mean, Yuta went from, I don't know what I want to do, I'm kind of rudderless in life, to I know exactly what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was good that I had the experience and now I understand it. But I also understand that, no, I can't let this be ruling my life right now. This has to be where I go. And I did like that. With Ayumi, also understanding as she got more growth. Okay, yes, all I've wanted was this one thing, and I can't have it. I know I can't have it, and finally understanding to let go. She was living her life as normal all the rest of the way, but that was the biggest step for her, is being able to let go. And that was hard for her.
Also, one thing with Yuta, when he comes back from his trip, I personally felt, and I don't know what y'all think, but I personally felt that Hagu definitely looked at him differently.
Yes.
And if he had a shot with her, it would have been then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody, including the professors, were looking at him differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were like, "Oh, the springtime of youth."
Well, those professors saw him the same way the whole way through.
I love it, like that tower they were on.
But that was partly Shu's doing too. He put that fake sign on there. But yeah, but it was like, it was interesting that briefly he had a shot, but it was more of, she was still searching, but he had realized, wait a minute, she's still searching, but she's not looking for in the same area that I'm looking at now. And it was kind of like, and I know that could be a tough decision to make too. That can be a really rough thing to come up with, like an admission to make to oneself. Let's put it that way. Some people never make that admission and they barrel on through, and well, that's what Takumi does, and it works for him in the end. But not everyone, could do that and get away with it.
And as far as Morita is concerned, I know a lot of his development is kind of, because they kind of threw all of the story in at once, it felt more tacked on. Which again, I think that they could have solved by making it more of a subtle build instead of kind of throwing everything into season 2. He did show growth in the end by moving towards something, not just kind of going from here to here to here. He wasn't all that different from Yuta in some ways. He was kind of rudderless as well, but he wasn't wallowing in despair about it. He was just, ooh, pretty thing over here, over there.
Squirrel?
And he did find some purpose at the end, trying to be there, trying to make up for the fact that there was so much hatred in his past, and trying to make up for that, trying to build a healing relationship there. And having to give up on this, and realizing that he was also at fault for his loss. You can tell that at the end when he and Yuta fight, that he finally comes to that realization himself, that I'm the one to blame for this. I could have done it, and I screwed up. And that's a huge admission from somebody that doesn't seem to have much in the way of personality when you look at him throughout.
Well, even Takomi has a realization that, when Ayuma goes on with the other Takuma, that maybe there might be a lost chance, because he almost starts across the street after her,
Mm-hmm. Well, is there any other character or plot that any of y'all would like to go over? I know we've kind of gone over a couple, but
we should go over Shoji and his relationship with Rika.
Yeah.
Because they are important characters.
That's an ancestral, almost.
Well, no, they're not related.
No, they're not. No,
I thought that there were.
No, they weren't. The closest ancestral is Shoji and Hagu. Honestly,
that's what I'm talking about.
The one they end up with. That's ancestral. No, with Rika, it's the classmate that was formerly that Takumi ends up with.
Gotcha.
And you gotta also mention her. You got to mention the third musketeer, Harada, whose name he takes, which another one I can kind of relate to because being the third wheel in a trio of close friends, I've been in that position.
Yeah,
it's awkward, but yeah. So he had Shu and Rika and Harada were all college buddies. They were really tight. They lived together. They were like just peas in a pod. And then there was a bad accident.
Harada was taking Rika to her parents in Hokkaido. It is important to note it was outskirts of Sapporo, where it was snowing. They had an accident and Harada dies and Rika is severely injured.
It had to have been psychologically, tragic.
PTSD from that.
She was set to marry Harada at that point. So it absolutely was. I mean, we see the psychological damage on her throughout the series. Even up to the end, she's not wanting to get involved with Takumi because she fears that she isn't deserving of having love again because her love died in an accident.
Well, her very plan from the start, the only thing that kept her alive from then on was actually Shuji
finishing his work.
Yeah, basically encouraging her to move forward with that. So she said, "Okay, I'm going to finish all the projects, and then I'm going to kill myself." And they don't say it right out up until the end, but if you really look, you can tell that's exactly what she's on to from the very beginning. That she has no interest in living. She has interest in living to complete what they did together, but that's it. And that's one thing that you actually see Mayama understand. Yeah. He catches on to this, and though I don't agree with how he went about it, I also understand why he felt motivated to do what he did, because he saw that end very clearly in her, and he wanted to do what he could to prevent her from dying. And that's not just physically, but emotionally as well. That's one of the most one of the more gray areas relationship wise that I would consider in the series, because it's not right what he did, but at the same time it is a hard call, because when you are sitting in that type of situation, and I'm not going to go further than that, but I can say that when you're in that type of situation, you think to yourself, what can I do to prevent some sort of tragedy? And sometimes those thought processes do not always go, oh, well, I've got to do this. And if I stay to these emotional barriers, yeah, they die, but at least I can say I was ethical about it. Those are things that it's a hard line to go about.
Yes, it can be hard to know.
Whether you want to step over the line or not. And I'm not saying that he's justified that.
It can be hard to know how far is too far a lot of the time. Like, if you have someone, in a suicidal personality is one, but there are other, like a couple that hit a little closer to home for me than that. But it's like how do you well, like you said, I guess be ethical about it, but also be effective. How do you help the person? How do you save the person if they don't want to be saved? And it can be a delicate balance a lot of the time. Going, do you push forward? Because you may just end up just completely pushing them off.
Or if they don't want to be saved,
Yeah.
should they be saved in the first place?
Right.
Is it something that maybe that's the better way is for them too?
Yeah.
And those are complex thoughts for somebody in their early 20s to go through.
Right.
It's a terrible thing to have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I say, I don't envy him in that.
I think these days, though, it's more prevalent in teenage to modern or to 20s to go through suicidal issues, if be it yours or somebody you may know, because it tends to be that age group.
Well, I mean, I again, not to get into specifics, but I knew people in college who were dealing with these things. I knew people in the workforce shortly after college. I knew one person that I worked with shortly after college who did commit suicide. So definitely, yeah.
I've been hospitalized for suicide attempt.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like you said, it's hitting a lot of people, more and more than it probably used to, or at least it's more out in the open, I guess.
I should say it's more out in the open. And I say
it's more prevalent, unfortunately.
Because if you look at things like you look at violence and things like that, we're in an age where everything can be shared. A lot of times, like let's say if we went back to say the 20s or the 30s, I mean, tons of people could be committing suicide and nobody would know about it because that sort of thing would have been swept under the rug. Unless they were making a spectacle of it.
I was gonna say a lot of people on Black Friday did do very spectacled suicides.
Yeah, that would have been a very big.
That was a different. Yeah, that was but like what we're talking
Black
about.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Black Friday. A lot of people end up.
Black Friday people get otherwise. They get a little too aggressive there.
Those are spectacles too, but different ways. But I mean, but early on, and a lot of that mental health was swept under the rug. If somebody was depressed and shut in, you would never know that they died of that because the family would have just been like, nope, there's no such thing. I think that's one good thing about society is that we are embracing mental health as a concept. That yes, it does exist. It's not something to just be ashamed of and sweep under the rug. And that's a thing. I mean, autism spectrum used to be something that people definitely swept under the rug, but now it's more, yes, it does exist.
Even though it's been under many different names now.
That's the thing. It's always been there. It's just been a lot of times families would just hide that thing. That relative would not leave their room.
We kind of addressed this back when we were talking about psychopaths. I mean, Japan, you really didn't talk about this in Japan until literally the last decade. And yet Japan has the highest suicide rate in the world. I mean, it's an unfortunate truth of Japan, and Japan has mostly ignored it. Sadly, until as of late now, where they're like, oh crap, we have a population issue because we keep getting our people to kill themselves.
Well, I don't see a problem with that, working until you kill yourself or putting yourself under such emotional strain to die. That's not a bad thing. Decrease the surplus population. Oh wait, we don't have a surplus anymore. Oh crap. But that's the thing, is it's there. Though I think sadly it's kind of funny that series like I'm thinking Shimonetta is not all that far off from what Japan could be going to either, which still then that's reflective of the surplus population.
Well, when they have zero family lines continuing the family lines, then I guess they'll look back and say, "Hey, we could have done things differently."
Well, they're finally admitting it's like, oh crap, maybe we should accept people into our country a bit more, and maybe let them have a more population increase somehow.
Yeah, eventually has to happen eventually.
No, there's still a lot of people over there. Still a lot of them.
Yeah. It's and that's the thing is it's all complex stuff.
Yeah.
But back to the series.
Yeah.
Any other types of things plot and character wise?
I think we pretty much covered all the characters in some way or other than really covering more with Leader, but I mean, Leader is Leader.
Leader is an excellent character.
I love how Leader has subtitles, even though he never actually speaks. He just, what he's saying.
I can't imagine anybody saying that they hate Leader as a character.
For people who haven't watched the anime or whatnot, Leader's a dog.
Well, there's also a white cat in here somewhere too. I noticed.
A few cats that show up.
There are a few cats, and then there's Shoji has a dog. We only see her like 3 times, but it's the evil poodle.
Oh yeah, God, that thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's no poodle. That's a demon.
That poodle also has subtitles. I do like how they have the animals communicate like that. That was very entertaining.
And then, of course, we briefly touched on them, but again, you have the coworkers Kazushi and Miwako, and we kind of talked about how Miwako, she's kind of like the meddling. Again, she's not old; she's like probably early mid-30s. But she's like the meddling grandmother almost.
I think they said 29, late 20s. Right. And yeah, she's the meddling grandmother, the nosy neighbor, the meddling grandma.
Yes.
All in one kind of character.
And one of my favorite gags was where she gets it in her mind to somehow, just for some reason, she gets it in her mind to punish Kazushi. So she keeps giving him these really bad shirts. And he somehow becomes a local style icon.
He keeps pulling him off like, and their boss is just like, all right, you're spending that much money on it. No, it has to. This is going to work. So you can't keep billing the agency credit card for these things.
He kind of reminded me, like visually, he reminded me a little bit of Leorio. Hunter. Just I don't know why. I just had that vibe. Although a little more laid back.
He kind of looked like Leorio.
Yeah.
But much older.
And at one point they had him dressed as Lupin,
Of course, that was one of the funny things about that character is that he looked old as heck, but it was the same age as the rest of the characters.
And not just any Lupin, green suit Lupin, which is a rarity.
Yeah. And of course, he's in love with her, and she's either oblivious to it or doesn't entirely care, or it's hard to tell, really.
It is hard to tell where she stands. I would enjoy a spin-off series with that group. And of course, you got Mario and Luigi on there.
Yeah, jeez.
All right. Let's address Mario and Luigi. If anything in this thing is dated, it's Mario and Luigi.
Yes.
They are the overly top gay representation in this anime. And they are the every bad trope of gay out there. And the fact that they're brothers and in love with each other does not help.
Yeah. They're like twin brothers too.
They're twin brothers.
Talk about incest.
They combined that with the trope of the eccentric artist trope, which those don't go very well together.
Which I wonder if they're playing on the Mario and Luigi of Nintendo.
Oh well, yeah.
Oh yes.
Which, I mean, in a sense, for those familiar with the game, there's some amusement value from the naming But yeah, they went over the top with those.
Yes.
And they have that part where they have a spat and they break up and they're like separate agencies until they get back together. And you realize that Luigi is a horrible manager who dumped everything on his subordinates. It was like, it was interesting.
And then we get more with them than we do with Shinobu's brother for most of it. The series. That's the sad part of it. You got to think about it.
Yeah, that's about right.
Which is sad because I do feel like Shinobu's brother, there was more to him that could have been explored.
Yeah.
And it was sadly all shoved into one place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't we move on to art and style? Now, one thing I wanted to bring up, I watched one of the making ofs for the opening scene, and I love the opening scene. Maybe it's because you're
talking about the first one.
Yeah,
with the food.
The food.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really love that scene. I love all like the different things, and a lot of them used real food for the scenes.
Well, I mean, you got to call out the final one being the shrimp from Beetlejuice. If you watch the movie Beetlejuice, you have that one scene where the prawn dinner comes up and grabs the guests. It's the same gloves. It's literally the same gloves. Do that in this at the end of the opening of the first episode. But yeah, no, I mean I'm not surprised they went to an art school to have that done. And gave them that project. Every year at my art school, we would get a project from a lot of people. One year we got it from Yoko Ono, as much as I dread the fact that, yes, I knew Yoko Ono. I guess she's still alive, so I guess. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy seeing that, and I feel kind of the second season's opening had sort of that same feel, but they did it with 3D, and they only did 4 or 5 different versions, and it's like really dated 3D. I mean, we're talking early 3D for anime, and it did not look good.
I mean, especially the first opener, I think, looked much better than the second one.
You gotta love that little bee, though.
Yeah, I do like a little bit.
But I like the theme song much better for the second opener, but the visuals for the first one were very memorable. They were very distinct. And I admit the 3D was very dated on that second one.
That's not it's not the second one. That's the third one. It's
you're
second
right.
Season. They do have the second opening is more of the watercolor pictures of the cast.
Yeah,
that one didn't run as long, to my knowledge.
No, it only kind of ran the last few episodes.
Yeah.
The one only two I remember like distinctly are that very first one, and then that one where they had the 3D thing of like the animals standing on top of each other and moving around the circle with the different effects on it.
And each animal represented each of the 5 members. So,
but. And of course, we've already talked about the art, but well, I mean, the art style, for whatever it is very unique as far as that. I didn't see a lot like that, and it might be there's a lot more that are identical to this now, but I didn't see a lot like this as far as the way that it was drawn, almost watercolor aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that had a similar kind of feel like that, though different art style. Was a game. Gosh, what was the game? Valkyria Chronicles, an anime. I watched. I love the anime. I need to finish the game. The game is good.
I mean, it's mixed. I mean, watercolor backgrounds are a staple for anime and animation in general. You either go acrylic or you go watercolor. It's one or the other when you do animation backgrounds. Again, like I addressed at the beginning, her art style, because it is her style, the original creator of Honey and Clover, of giving these long sort of curved mouths look, which is why I was like, as soon as I was rewatching, it's like, I wonder if she had a connection to Honey or to Lion. March Comes Into a Lion, because it's the same style. It's like, oh, she's the creator of it. Okay, yeah. So it's like, all right. But for an art school, I really noticed this more on this run through, because I was like, oh, let me look at the art more. The animation actually was very cheap and very sloppy. And I have to say that when I'm looking through this, and even though there's crisp, clean moments, I can nitpick it a lot more. And I have to say, it's JC Staff, and I called them out in a recent review on my own channel. JC Staff did an okay job here and there, but there are some points where I'm like, there's a glaring mistake there, or there's a glaring mistake there. Now, given it's a 2D animation, it's all 2D. Well, maybe one or two elements they had some 3D. But it was early days of 3D, so it was all 2D.
There we go.
Okay, so the
yes, yeah, there's March Comes In Like a Lion.
The actor, the mangaka is also credited as the character designer for Eden of the East, and I can definitely see a little bit of
that in Eden of the East.
Yeah, I can definitely see a little bit of that there.
Animation quality.
I mean, the main character, the main male lead in Eden of the East is pretty much Shinobu. He has the absolute same look, different personality, because she's not the writer of that series.
I did want to say one thing before you continue. There is one food that I really, really want to happen here in the States, which was a triple large. Takuma orders it, and it was like a triple large, triple deluxe pizza. We don't have a triple large, triple deluxe pizza here. We need that.
Oh, I mean, I will give the food looks creative in this series, because you either get the really good food or you get the really bad food. But then I see things like when they're ordering from that menu, it is cut and paste in there digitally, and it looks bad compared to everything else in the series. I'm like, and you're seeing this pizza, and it doesn't look like a pizza, and I'm just like, you're supposed to be about an art school students, and you're not giving me the art. I'm like,
yeah.
I did like the look of the pumpkin with the mint ice cream.
I saw that, and I'm like, maybe no. I might be willing to try it, but no. I think the pumpkin and the mint chocolate maybe, but didn't they put something on top of it?
I think soy sauce.
Yes, and that's when I was like, no.
The one thing I was going to say, as far as the animation, I was looking through here. Apparently, there's no connection with the main animators here. But again, another show that reminded me a lot of this one visually was Chihayahuru. It's different, but to me, it's reminiscent of some of the character traits. And also, even though the animation is very different, the big mouths, that's something that this has in common with Chihayahuru. Yeah. But I also was reminded of this series when I watched House of Five Leaves. Like, again, the animations, that is ugly animation. Ugly as hell.
Oh, God, yeah.
But it was mixed with gorgeous backgrounds, and it was just really, it was a weird mix, but the character animation was ugly. But it reminded me a little bit of this in the way they did the mouths and eyes and whatever, and it was just strange.
See, I didn't think that it was. I never thought of it as ugly. I just thought of it as a different style.
Well, it's definitely a different style. Yeah.
But everything is a different style. I mean, book figures is a different style.
now going back into the anime, if we want to talk about the art within the art, I mean, because I mean, this is an art school. They do art projects. We see some of their art projects. And I will say a lot of it is what you would see in the line, with the exception of Shinobu, because Shinobu is doing his narcissistic nonsense throughout the thing. But between Yuta, Hagu's, and Ayumi's, because we don't really see Takomi's artwork done at all. We do get to see those three, and they're very artistic in different styles and different elements here. I liked seeing the ginkgo tree that Hagu does, or the tower in the end that Yuta does. The tower in the beginning, it would just look like those stupid bath stools. I can say I did something really cheap and stupid like that myself in art class, where I was just like, crap, let me throw some toys that I like into an aquarium with some weird stuff and tape. It looked like crap, and it was crap.
I did like how that was something I thought was interesting as to how they juxtaposed those two versions of the tower, of him before, and then when he finds himself, not only that, but you can see all of the development that he had when he was working with them restoring the temple. He said, I need to put scaffolding around this because I need it to be stable, because his other tower fell. And that was the thing that was like, okay, that's it. That's what broke him and sent him on his journey.
And now, of course, the professors loved it because they thought it was part of the message.
Yeah, I thought he was doing a Banksy destroy his stuff at the end. But yeah, the other tower, you could see there was much more purpose to it.
Well, I mean, it's showing individual woodworking techniques throughout that tower, and he's showing different techniques as the tower progresses, each style up, and it's. I guess you're calling for a cat.
Yeah, she's a cat.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's sort of what it was. That one was showing, and Ayumi's. She had traditional pottery down, and then she had the abstract pottery down that we would see. I didn't care much for the
legendary sake cups.
And the legendary sake cups. I could believe that if anybody did a sake cup that was featured in One Piece, that was this ginormous sake cup, it was her. Because, I mean, it basically is, a sake cup the size of a room.
Well, I guess
again, that sounds like something they would have been on a quest for. A Night is Short, Walk On Girl.
That's
the
true.
Legendary
she'd be drinking out of the giant sake cups. So what about? I guess we already talked about the music, but did anybody else have anything to say on it?
I will say I really loved how, I think it was the first end theme, maybe, that they had a stripped down piano version that they played a lot through the course of the show. And I really loved that tune. And so I liked, they maybe overused it at times, but for the most part, I liked it. That little touch. Yeah.
To me, most of the music, and this is saying it from somebody who actually really loves the series, the music was only okay for me. I'll admit. It's like I thought it filled its purpose, but it didn't go beyond.
I didn't like the artwork of the second season opener. I loved the tune.
Yeah,
I felt it was very catchy. So yeah.
Meanwhile, I know that Dave and Roger just skipped the opener's ender, so
yeah, probably.
I did. And I simply wanted to get as much material done as possible.
Did you get to see the opener at least one time through, though?
I got about 10 seconds at the plate, and about it.
Yeah,
you do need to watch it at once just to see the visual.
Well, I got to admit that there's very few animes that I would actually watch all the way through for all the openings or endings. So it's not a shove in the Honey and Clover or anything like that. It's just I'm normally very interested in getting to the anime.
Come on, you need that Beetlejuice moment or the hot dog man dancing moment at the beginning of the opening.
So Roger, we ain't talked with you in a long time.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why I am 2 episodes shy of the end is I took time out this month to watch 2 additional shows because this one kept doing these things on movies galore. So I watched the Tatami Galaxy for the first time and rewatched DMC. And you got to, if you ever watched either of those, you can't skip those openers. Those are absolutely incredible openers.
No, he voluntarily went to those 2 series. I only asked for those 2 movies.
But it gave me an excuse to watch my copies. And Tatami was one I needed to see. But that opener kicks ass. I love it. So
I think it's going to be interesting when we get to Zetsubo Sensei on here in May.
That's the one I'm looking forward the most to see.
I have a feeling.
Will you actually have it in May? That's the question.
I hope.
Because
it might be pushed back more because of the subject content. It's surprising they even came to it even coming to America.
That took them long enough.
That is the thing. It's like I don't think that Zetsubo Sensei will appeal to that many people in America, but that's
probably won't.
People don't know.
It's just such an odd show that
it's a great show, but I don't see how. I mean, that it's kind of like Gintama. I'm kind of surprised Gintama had any release here in the U.S.
Yeah, speaking of shows that need an American release and openers that you can't skip, Roger. I have been very, very perturbed in the last week. Out of nowhere, I had an obsession with tracking down and watching the opener Grand Blue from Cheeky Angel, and I can't find it. The song,
YouTube.
No, the song is all over YouTube. The opener is nowhere to be found.
No, there's full-on episodes on YouTube. The entire series is on episodes.
I tried watching them, and I did not see the opening sequence.
Wow.
So I don't know.
I'll have to check in the later episodes. I'll have to check later.
I don't know. I tried. I watched the first episode, and I tried putting on 2 or 3 others.
Which is funny because that's a series that probably would appeal to more than Zetsubo
Sensei. It needs to come out here. But yes, Grand Blue's an awesome opener. I love it.
Well, Viz lost the license. No one has a license for Cheeky Angel now. So
that's too bad.
Discotheque.
Discotheque, exactly.
Hitman Reborn, honestly.
Stuff that we're not going to get from anywhere else.
Why is Hitman Reborn a shonen title that is so beloved, yet somehow has never gotten a U.S. release?
Discotheque released it.
Discotheque released
it.
Oh, they have?
Yes.
All right, I am shocked. All right, I am absolutely shocked.
The whole thing.
Yes, Discotheque put it out in 2 volumes. Yeah.
How expensive is it? Because I guarantee you, it's probably $1,000.
I think it's about $100 for both volumes, unless you get it on sale.
Makes sense.
I think I got it for around $60 or so. Yeah.
Because people rave about the fights in that series, but no one can watch it.
Oh, it's they condensed it. As you do. Oh, I got it for much less than $100 when I got it.
Well, that's what I said. I said unless you get it on sale.
Because it's a good. Well, I mean, it is a good series. It's one that is.
I think this is it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, 2 neat volumes doesn't even take up much room in a collection. Well, I should probably.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
Reborn.
All. Yeah, all 101 episodes. Actually, no more than that. All 203 episodes.
203? Holy crap!
Yeah. That's why I was like, they put it out. I was like, it's a lot of episodes. I mean, it's like we're not getting all of Detective Conan.
That's going to be hard to do with 1,000+ episodes.
No, they
have rewritten now with the acquisition of Crunchyroll to Funimation. All of it is now. All the dub is now on Crunchyroll. So every episode of the dub is now on Crunchyroll, plus wherever Crunchyroll had picked up the series.
Yeah.
Now, one series I'd like to point out that I find it absolutely amazing that has not come to America is a Dark Rabbit Has 7 Lives. Why
there.
I just don't understand why it has it. If C3 would make it, because it's kind of like the same kind of idea, why wouldn't Dark Rabbit, Has 7 Lives, wouldn't? It has all the ingredients. It's a prime Sentai title.
They're
losing cash with that one.
and we've talked about it, but did Viz finally announce Maison Ikoku getting a Blu-ray?
I don't
Not
think
that I'm aware of.
No,
Or at least a box set or something?
I do
hope
have
they
hope.
will.
I do have
Yeah,
hope.
otherwise, nobody can see volume 7 or 8 anytime soon. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be a hard series to get done.
I know they just released a box set of the manga because they've been huge about doing the manga box
There's an omnibus of volumes of those being released on their SIG line. So I would think they would want to release Maison Ikoku. I mean, maybe it's like something like Chemical Orange Road with Animego. They said, well, they released it once, and that's good enough. For
They've got that new Inuyasha series coming out. What's it called again?
Yashahime Princess.
Whatever it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. With that coming out, maybe that'll drum up some more Takahashi interest.
I think that the Urusei Yatsura is a good example. A lot of the movies are being re-released.
Discotheque is releasing.
Discotheque is doing it though.
Discotheque could release all of it in standard definition, like one of those sets.
If Viz lets them. Because I think Viz still has that.
No, Viz never had the license for Yatsu.
No.
Animego had that one.
I think they let that go though, because that was prime
territory. Yeah.
So there's like 197 episodes, but it'd be right up, Discotheque's alley if they want to revive this older series.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, I was thinking Ikoku. Like I thought Viz still had that one, but
it may not.
Viz still has a Koku, but they don't have. They don't have. The only one they didn't have was Urusei.
Yeah. Well, Discotheque doing the movies. I'm actually ordering the movies as they come out in my small part to say, do the rest of it.
Yeah, I would recommend it because it's going to be Urusei Yatsura is going to be a hard series to try to get everything done because it's such spread out.
But it's coming out in a new show of it. A new show is coming out of it. So,
from Studio David.
Yeah.
And everything, David Studio. If all plays that did the JoJo's and Bizarre Adventures putting out Urusei Yatsura, and Cells at Work. So I say, that's going to be very interesting. I'd like to see a modern rendition of Urusei Yatsura, see what I can do without the limited animation.
That's going to be very quick to be screaming about canceling that series. I am sure about that.
Well, the good thing is it's in Japan.
Yeah, it's in Japan, but I guarantee Twitter's going to have a field day when that series comes out.
I don't know. I mean, if Ranma can get a full re-release here on Blu-ray.
But see, Ranma gets the caveat that it's trans-friendly, or people are like, oh, it's trans-friendly.
Yeah, but there's
women-friendly.
How many times does Naruto needs to be redone anyways? I mean, how many times for whatever it said it's going to be? So it's whatever the money falls in, and Ranma does have the staying power. I mean, it's been around for a long time. It'll be redone many more times. So yeah.
Well,
it's up in the air. But going back to let's go back to the show.
I think we've covered the music, unless anybody else had anything on the music. Why don't we hit favorites? Favorite, I would just say instead favorite episode. If you could think of that, because it's not a scene, I guess.
God.
Roger, you've seen probably the least of us on this. So what's your favorite episode so far?
I have to admit, I don't have one. I was I had a very difficult time with this series trying to get to 10. So I must admit, I don't have a favorite episode or a favorite moment. It's one of those embarrassments, I have to say.
Do you have a favorite character so far?
If any of them I like the most is the Pottery Girl. I would think she's the most intriguing to me to see what would happen with her. But as for the rest of them, they were like sponges. They were just there hanging out.
Well, how about you, Dave?
As far as
favorite episode?
I'll have to say the Twister episode. For some reason, that just is my favorite. Just due to the fact that they got so tied up in the whole thing.
I keep thinking of the Weird Al version of the song.
Twister.
So, did you have a favorite character, Dave?
Oh God.
Leader?
My favorite character would probably be Yuta, even though I think that Hagame had the most character development.
Well, Brittany, do you have a favorite episode?
I mean, unfortunately, yeah, I have a disdain for most of this show. But I will give it. My favorite episode would be when Yuta meets the Restorers, because you get to see sort of art meets real life, or what job market with that, and I do feel it's probably one of the better ones there. As far as favorite character, I almost really want to say leader. And I'm not a big, huge dog person, but I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go leader.
Leader's
honestly,
a good dog.
Leader's a good dog. Leader's a good dog. So we're giving it the leader.
So Jacob, favorite episode?
I'm really not sure that I can single out an episode as like my favorite. If I had to say a particular sequence or section of the series, strangely enough, I think I'm probably going to agree with Brittany. The Yuta's cross-country trek, I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. And again, it gave him great growth opportunities. The people he meets along the way are pretty intriguing. I like that the one old man is just like, delicious. Just delicious. I thought that was pretty fun. And there's a lot of moments scattered throughout the series. Like I like the one part where Ayumi actually kicks at the guy, and there's like that red hot where she cut right into the metal or whatever above. There's a few moments like that scattered throughout. And the whole sequence of the one guy in the different shirts where he's the style guru was pretty great.
Oh, yes.
But as far as characters, I do love Leader, but I'm going to go with Ayumi as my favorite character.
Yeah. All right. Well, my favorite. I do love the whole finding yourself thing. I mean, that is a big thing. Yeah, I do wish that was something that we could have done. If I had the money and all that stuff to do it, that'd have been a great thing to do in my 20s, to just be able to see and feel more like finding direction. But my favorite episode is probably one of most people's least favorite episodes, which is the episode where they all go to that kind of creepy park at the end where nobody's there because they go the wrong time of year, and they take the Ferris wheel up. And it kind of reminded me a lot of a trip I had taken to, what was it? Venice Beach. And I saw that there was a cool looking Ferris wheel up there. I was like, oh, I'll get up there and I'll ride it. It doesn't look that far away. So I walked from the first part of Venice Beach to Santa Monica, where the Ferris wheel was, because I was stubborn as heck. And I remember getting there and just to ride the thing, and then it was closed when I got there. Then I walked back, and then I remember collapsing because I'd walked 20 miles in a day. I talked to the concierge there and said, yeah, so what did you do today? I was like, yeah, well, I walked to Santa Monica. They looked at me for a minute like I was crazy. And then I got upstairs, and then I was told, but I was like, oh, you've got to see this. So I was like, oh, it's up on the roof. Okay, let's get in the... No, only the stairs to the roof. And I looked at them like, I'm going to kill you. But as far as character, Yuta probably, mainly because I do identify with Yuta the most. I remember when I saw this, I was still feeling kind of listless and rudderless. I had been thrown into my field and kind of felt like I was there just because there was nowhere else to go. Now I don't feel like that. I feel more like there is a purpose, but that that always felt there. But between that, how his love interest, how he had that, a lot of that just all clicked into place for me. And maybe that's why I like the series so much, because it does click into place for me. And everybody has that series or show where that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is how it is for me. But with that, I do thank you all for coming here for this discussion. But next month, Brittany will be taking the stage and showing a very similar series called Konosuba. We'll be watching both season 1 and 2.
Woohoo!
The anime that launched a million memes.
Well, I was telling him earlier, it also helped launch Isekai Quartet. So once we watch the other 3 in that series, then
I will be ready to kill everybody by the end of that if I'm watching that.
Oh no, I hate to ruin that for you, Jacob. There's several anime series out in the Isekai Quartet. It's not just the main few.
okay.
But I will say there are 2 that I prefer out of the other 2 featured in there. But
one of them will be the Tanya the Evil, and
Tanya the Evil and Overlord are my least favorite out of the Isekai Quartet. Versus I enjoy ReZero, although I am furious with ReZero. I want it to freaking get on with the plot at times.
Get on with it.
But will this be the first isekai you guys have done on an anime?
I think so.
Have we done? No, I don't think we've done one yet.
No, I mean my favorite.
This will be the isekai that. Yeah, this would be the first isekai, and we're cutting our teeth on probably the one that most people love because of the humor of it. It's
because of
anti-isekai of isekai.
Megumin.
Oh yeah.
I will say it's not going to be my first isekai, but
no, definitely not. I've seen them.
I would say Freaky would be considered an isekai.
It would, yeah.
I give you that. Yeah, it was a good choice.
Like I said, I got the book right here for the original. I will point out some differences because it's only 20. Believe it or not, it's 22 episodes, and that includes OVAs of the first 2 seasons. That is quite rare that there's that short of seasons. There is a movie. It is also available. All of it's available on dub on Crunchyroll at this time. So, because it was a Crunchyroll original dub of all things.
Though you will not be able to watch it all for free after the end of the month.
No.
So you'll have to pay.
Well, no, actually no, because it's older content you won't be you'll be able to watch for free. Newer content you won't be able to watch for free.
I look at
when they get to season 3 later this year, you ain't gonna be able to watch it.
I'll be watching. Yeah, definitely.
I'll be probably running physical anyway, so I've already seen listings for the movie up on Right Stuff, so so it will be coming out. So
definitely a different setup for anime from what we have today. Not really depressing. Well, depressing in some ways, but not depressing at all.
A lot of people get involved with Sword Online and kind of like that kind of storyline. Konosuba is a breath of fresh air, though. It just is completely wacky. So I like it a lot.
Well, we shall see how it goes at the end of the month. Of course, let's do a quick outro for people. So Roger, you still running that Animazing and doing a great job with it.
Oh, thank you. Well, my name is Roger. I run Animazing Collection Company. We're a specialist group that really likes collecting things and showing off what they know. I get shown my back end every single time when I think I know something. Also happen to have the Super Grand Grid Ray, and it's going to be my testament to my will to what everybody needs to look at as a piece of artwork later on in life when I fall over dead. So hopefully, I really had a lot of fun coming to these discussions. And this one I was pretty darn silent. So hopefully next time when I'm going to Konosuba, I'm going to show you what's all about. How this goes. So yeah, thank you very much.
Dave is going to do me the benefit of finally letting me retire from hosting for a while, because this tomorrow will be the last time I will be hosting on Inside Movies Galore until June.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good, because it is kind of a. I know Jake has been through the gauntlet already.
I still gotta watch
I
that.
have. I went through the gauntlet.
Well, you and I will pretty much dominate almost June.
So, I mean, I'll be back in June, and in June I'm going to be trying to do our own comparable anime that I will. I'm pretty sure Brittany will like better as a choice, which will be Puella Medical Magica.
All right.
And we'll be covering the 2 movies for my birthday on Inside Movies Galore, which is the same basic storyline, but for people who don't want to watch the series.
I don't know if I've watched the movies. Actually, there are 3 movies. I know one of them is just a rehash of the show.
Oh, the first 2 are a rehash of the show. It's just
third's like an alternate ending.
Yeah,
right?
it's just I only have 2 slots of the the third is a continuation.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I only have 2 slots that I can use. So those first 2 movies are the best way to start it out.
Okay.
But we are going to end my month with Inside Movies Galore with this gem over
I gotta watch that piece of crap tonight.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it when I get home.
And is this animation or is it a?
It's an Italian animation, and
it's the second to worst. No, hold it up, Brandon, hold it up. No, you chose the worst. You did not choose the rapping dog. Turn around. Turn the other thing around.
It is the rapping dog.
Is it the Mexican mice? Mexican mice is the worst version. No, Mexican mice don't go with the rapping dog.
No, it is. I watched it. It's party time. It's party time.
All I know is there are 2 of these.
Famously playing as the Titanic went down.
There are 2, and Dave found the others out there if you really want to watch them. But yes, there is this one, which was a single, and then there was another one which had one movie and a sequel to it, because Titanic needs a sequel, and with a purple octopus.
The first one they didn't die though. The first one they didn't die. They didn't sink the Titanic.
No, but then the octopus brings them to Atlantis, and they do all that stuff. It's a weird thing. But that's one that I would love to get on it, but I can only find the one with the rapping dog and the terrible stereotypes, and it's I'm not saying it's a good film. I'm doing this because it's such a bad film that it needs to be talked about. So,
yeah, it does. Oh.
So you won't see
me. He's torturing us.
This one.
If you're watching this, he is torturing us. He's flat out torturing us, making us watch this film.
I don't know. Dave's put up a couple because he thought they were bad films.
Oh, well, Dave will be torturing us next month.
I hate to say what Dave thinks is a bad film.
Actually, none of these are bad films. It's just although Buddy the Killer Thing is kind of questionable.
But if you want to see that tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern, you do your math from there. We're going to be doing that, and that'll be the last of my presentations on Dave's channel, Inside Movies Galore. But he also has Delusions of Grandeur, and if you want to say anything about all of that, feel free, Dave.
Well, yeah, we do kind of the same thing on Delusions of Grandeur with a different group, and I have fun with it. But I also do a lot of video pickups, videos, and video reviews. I would call them analyses from time to time. So check that out, and like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion tonight.
Oh, and Brittany, of course, we showed off your latest endeavor with the print Demon Blade in our last pickup.
Yeah.
So we've got that sitting on with us, but tell us more about what you're doing.
Well, I do live streams. I do art regularly. I'll do art streams. I'll do video game streams. I'm currently doing a playthrough to do 100% of Final Fantasy VI. Since it finally came out on the Pixel Perfect. So I've been doing that every Sunday. And I'm also doing one more. This is the last time I'm doing it because the show comes out in April. I'm trying to bring this into my camera. I am doing Shield Hero Book 6. So this is exactly where the show picks up for this new season. So the new season is picking up right where we're doing the read through. I'm reading through chapters 1 through 6. And so we've already got 1 through 4 done. It's up there. And now you can watch, tune in Wednesday at 8 and on Embry Arts YouTube. And you will be able to watch me do the live read of the last 2 chapters we're covering before the show begins.
Well,
Very cool.
and of course, if you want to see the version again of Demon Blade, I've got it right here.
Physical book, hard copy. Wish they put the little let me choose where the thing is, but yeah, full on.
Yep. First 6 comics, I think it is, isn't it?
Yep, first 6 issues.
Book? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that one.
Well, I mean, you've got the artist and writer of it right there, so
Yeah.
it's on Amazon.
Artist and writer in one, so yeah. People are starting to find it, luckily these days, but
Cool.
needs to turn in more sales. But love to see people, and no matter what, comment and join in. So I had a nice raid last night with the Final Fantasy game playthrough. So
Cool.
So did you have anything that you wanted to throw out, Jake?
What's that?
I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to say.
Well, I'm Jake. Y'all know me. I'm the co-host on this channel, and you know,
pitch your plant company, man. Pitch your plant company.
Well, I'm going. Well, we will have picture plants eventually.
All right.
But yes, I in addition to spending time with all these fine folks, I am very sleep deprived from doing research and viewing for these things, but also trying to balance working a full-time job and running or helping run a co-founded a native plant nursery, and we are right on the cusp of spring, which you wouldn't know from today because it's freaking winter again today.
There's a reason I have a Snuggie on underneath
really,
here.
really hoping this is the last one for the season.
Cold snap to hurt the plants.
They are, but we're getting there. We're getting it slowly but surely, and by the end of the month, it's going to be going full speed ahead. So, good times.
Oh, great. Well, with that being said, I wish you all the best for the month. We got our. I've already got my Craiglon incident part 1 stuff taped. It's just a matter of doing all the clips and editing, which all those clips. I don't know how people do it and have a real job on the side.
They don't.
They usually let people edit it for them, but
it's painstaking work. Trust me.
There's a reason why it's been like 2 months between the episodes of that, because it's because those film cycle analyses are much more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
They with the first one that we did. It was. I thought it was really well done, but it took so long to put together. And this one's going to be our second of those, and I'm looking forward to that once I can get it put together. I'm doing the trilogy, and then I'm going to be hitting those 2 obscure gamer movies that I found: Games Master, What Have You Done, and Dungeon Rubber, which. Actually are quite hilarious. I enjoyed those. If you ever get a chance, and you can check them out. I think I've sent the links to them, because you can't find them much of anywhere online. That's what I was asking. It's like, Brittany, I know you've attended enough places that you might have seen them or heard of them.
I may have seen them, but I don't recall them, honestly. I haven't been to enough gamer cons to really know it. That's the one problem. But yeah, I'd be willing to check them out too. I mean, just send them my way and I'll check them out.
Oh yeah, I put the links up in the gaming group chat. So
Okay.
if you ever want to take a look at them, yeah, go for it. Like I say, I don't think they're going to care at this point. They're
not that long either.
Oh, they're fun. They're fun. They're not like high budget, but they're fun.
Oh, come on. I introduced you to X-Strike. I know high budget when I see one.
The first one essentially is them using one of those boglins, as one of the characters, where the game master is short a character for his campaign, so summons a demon in order to play the last character in the slot, and the character is a paladin.
We used homies, for God's sake. In one game, I mean, we got that cheap. It was like, oh, I'm gonna grab a homie from a gumball machine and use that as a character.
So
I remember I found a Hello Kitty I used in the games with you guys before.
I do find it funny that the demon has to play a paladin.
Yeah, that's a pretty funny concept. Even I know that.
So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy. Have a great month, and hopefully y'all come back to us for more lovely content. We've had like a lot of content out today.
Yeah.
We did a new release video about new stuff coming out. We did an Oscar discussion, and finally this. Next week isn't going to be as active, folks. All right. Take care.
Right? Wow.
Thank you.